I want to think for a little while this morning in a manner that will be significant in itself, and also that will conceivably have bearings on the things that I shall want to do in the two subsequent Sundays. If I were to use a text, it would be from the words of our scripture lesson, the words which the writer of the book of Hebrews uses in connection with the life of Abraham. He said that Abraham looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. I think that it is true that the life of man demands some kind of working relationship with what is implicit in the idea of an absolute. This is a necessity of the human spirit. And sometimes I think it is a necessity of mind, because man's life in any perspective which is at his disposal seems always to be so small, so insignificant, so irrelevant in terms of the great creative movements upon which his life seems to float, and with reference to which man at any particular moment in time seems unable to determine altogether what is the direction of the stream or how deep is his personal involvement, so that more and more the struggle of the human spirit seems to me to be against the insistent pressure of the threat of isolation, against the awful feeling of just being you. And nothing more. So that this search for something beyond the particular moment, for something which is capable of giving meaning to the moment, but can never be contained in the moment. Each of us is trying to find it. We have various ways for expressing it. In a certain aspect of American literature, it is called the Northwest Passage that we are trying to find. It is this determination, no, it's more than that. This inner insistence that there must be some reference beyond me that will give meaning to me in my private or in my collective endeavor. Now, this need, this necessity for the absolute, for a working relationship with an absolute, takes many forms. In terms of the collective life of man, in terms of his social organizations and structures, it takes the form of an authority that is beyond the collective will, of which the collective will may be an expression, may be the voice through which it speaks, but always there are those within the body of the common life who rise up to say that what the collective will is saying is not in accordance with the authority beyond the collective will that gives to it its status and its meaning. So we get this inscribed in our laws and in our social habits, and particularly in our social contracts. It's very instructive to read about the days when our own country was beginning to be born. Always there was in the minds of many of those people back at that far-off moment the necessity for having a source for feeling that the collective life, what was emerging as a government, would always have open and easy access to an authority that was above the collective order, an authority that could inform the struggle, give meaning to it, provide some sense of integrated action, some judgment by which the organized life would be governed and structured, something that would give meaning to ordinary laws that were created out of the struggle of the social struggle in which men found themselves, but always the law was a manifestation of a higher law. This need expressed itself there, so that whenever in the course of man's rearranging of his social relations, he seems to be outside of the reach of any point of referral that is beyond the struggle, then the struggle becomes an end in itself, and all of the things that are released by the struggle become monsters, destroying themselves and each other. Now, this is true in man's collective endeavors. It's true with reference to his social order, to law, and even custom. It's not an accident that there appears the word "in God we trust," even though there are many things said about it now. It is not an accident that there is this appeal to something outside of the struggle of man's life that can give balance and meaning and significance to it. It grows out of a deep insistence here, and the form that it takes in our collective life is a recognition of authority which authority is not the creation of the minds of the people who use the authority as a point of referral. And the practical, pragmatic form that it takes in the collective life is some sort of dream. A dream of democracy, or a dream of communism, or a dream. The dream is the vehicle through which this court of appeal, this authority that is the symbol of the absolute, keeps in touch and orders and judges and ultimately holds responsible the collective activities of men. Now, in terms of the private life, the same thing happens. We need this. We must have some relationship to that which stands for us as the absolute. It is, and I think that the religious significance of the notion that's in my mind is that this sense, this structural need for the absolute is a part, in my language, of the givenness of God that expresses itself in my thought in the one word faith, as distinguished from hope, for instance. I think that faith is given. It is, and the form that it takes is the hunger, the reach, the necessity, the inner necessity for relating to something that holds, that gives meaning, the assurance of meaning, even though at any particular moment in my life I do not know quite what the meaning is. But I have the assurance of the meaning, and this is the thing that causes the human spirit to create hope. Hope. For hope is something which has to do with what is conceivably possible within the time-space operation of the individual initially. And when we examine the grounds of the word, I was very interested in checking this out to discover that hope may mean an island surrounded by marshes and swamps. It is a solid place in the midst of a lot of things that are not solid. It is an inlet. Another definition, it is an inlet, and an inlet is an opening. When I was a boy living in Florida, in the summertime, twice in the summer, we had boat excursions down to what we call the inlet, and the inlet was the place where the lagoon, the Halifax River, moved out into the Atlantic Ocean, and where the Atlantic Ocean moved into the Halifax River. It was a place It was the opening that gave the lagoon free and easy access to the ocean, and it was the opening that gave the ocean free and easy access to the lagoon. It was the point through which the tides ebbed and flowed. It was the thing that confirmed the unity between the lagoon and the ocean, between the Halifax River and the Atlantic Ocean. This is hope. Now in the human spirit, hope becomes the vehicle by which the individual seeks to achieve within a time-space interval of either given duration or perhaps sometimes limited duration, what is his relationship, his offering, his companionship with the absolute. And we seek to do this in many ways. I sometimes think that one of the things that holds all of life together is the way in which all kinds of human beings use their little hopes as inlets that give to them free and easy access, in the language of religion, to God, to the authority, to the absolute, and it is the thing that gives to him free and easy access to the life of a man. And to me, the thing that is so exciting is that even though from where any man stands at any particular point in time, he may not be able to do the big thing, the great thing that represents the large inlet between the common life and the dream out there, which is the symbol of the authority, the absolute. But always within the limits of his little vocation, there is this possibility. And it is the multiplication of these possibilities that provide the solid ground for man's affirmation about the decency and the goodness and the haleness of his journey, however full of broken lances of despair it might be. Let me illustrate. I picked up on the train the other day. I saw a copy of the Wall Street Journal. This is the one I couldn't think of it. Someone had left it on the seat, and I began reading it. And I was arrested by a very interesting article that appeared on the editorial page. And it said something like this, that another story or a different story or some kind of story about Birmingham, said this article. So I was arrested by this, and I began reading it. And to my amazement, this is what the story was about. A medical doctor in the city of Birmingham, Alabama, who had been for a long time experimenting with with dogs. I can't be technical about this because I don't remember those technical details, but he was doing something with arteries of dogs, putting artificial arteries in them or something of that sort, and it was a very technical job and preparatory to getting some skill in a certain kind of open heart surgery, and he's a great open heart surgeon in this general hospital down in Birmingham. And it occurred to him one day in the practice of his surgery that even though he was a doctor and a surgeon, that he participated in the great dream about what American society really ought to be like, and how this can be defined in terms of a vague kind of absolute political and social absolute that's way out there somewhere. So he decided he'd do something about it. So he went to the local Negro high school and asked the principal, the Parker High School, and he asked the principal if he would give him the names of 3, 4, or 5 of his most capable seniors. And he gave him about 4 names, and he interviewed these 4 students and selected one. And he asked this youngster if he would like to help him. He said, I think that to spend your time doing something less than you're capable is very bad, and I can do something about it. So this 17-year-old boy came and began working with him. And one day when he was doing one of these very technical things with the arteries and so forth, the boy said to him, you know, I think I can do that. And so he, since it just was a dog, he let him try it. And he did it. And he did it over again several times. And it soon developed, without dragging this story out, it soon developed that all of this arterial work that he had been doing was turned over to this boy who was now 17 and a half years old. And then, for the past 4 years, he has taught all the medical students this procedure. And one day, the doctor said to this boy, you have so much talent, why don't you go and become a surgeon? This is really... And the boy took some time to think about it, and he said, no, I have a real sense of having found my place if I can continue working and experimenting with the dogs. Now, this is the exciting thing about how man relates to the absolute, the authority symbolized in the dream, at the point at which his little life may be lived. Every man, there is available to every man the vehicle of hope through which he can become a living, for instance, of the absolute that is always just beyond any realization which he may have. And the multiplication of these is the thing that gives, I think, the broad sense of confidence about the meaning of life and the human adventure, and the givenness of God as expressed in faith feeds and sustains and nourishes and keeps pressure always on the hope, with the notion that the hope at last may become so comprehensive that it will be the opening through which the great movement of that which is the mystery of the absolute can be the shared radiance of the common life of man. And whether you fail or succeed in terms of the far-off thing, what you do at the point which is yours is the thing by which you define your relationship to it. As the dreamer, the hunter in Olive Schreiner's dream puts it, I have sought, and for long years I have labored, but I have not found it. He was searching for truth. I have not rested, I have not repined, and I have not seen her. Now my strength is gone. Where I lie down worn out, other men will stand young and fresh. By the steps that I have cut, they will climb. By the stairs that I have built, they will mount. They will never know the name of the man who made them. At his clumsy work, they will laugh. When the stones roll, they will curse him, but they will mount. And on his work, they will climb, and by his stair, they will find her, and through him. He looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. Do you? Do you? Accept the offering of our thoughts and the great yearning of our hearts? O God, and may thy peace never desert us, however hard we may seek to cast it out. Our Father,